The film begins with the British intelligence team boarding a plane, then parachuting out and launching an attack on a location where a gang is working on developing a virus to spread. The soldiers enter the place and start attacking the gang, taking them out one by one. But suddenly, a man appears, greeting them and saying he's a fan. Just as the soldiers raise their weapons and are about to shoot him, his eyes turn red and he attacks them, managing to kill them all, except for one girl who escapes. Afterward, the man returns from chasing the girl and tells his team that the girl has his eye infected with the virus and they must find her at any cost. We then cut to London, where two detectives storm a bar and beat everyone inside until they reach the virus's creator. One of the detectives tells him he heard online about a virus set to be released soon, extracts information from him after beating him, then leaves him and walks away. Meanwhile, we see the first detective, Luke Hobbs, sitting with his daughter, who tells him she found a photo of him and his brother in the bathroom. He tells her he's her family and that T here is no one else in the family but them. The second detective, Dix, visits his mother in prison and she asks him about his sister, saying they no longer talk. She reminisces about how he, Owen, and Hattie used to play together, how their favourite game was bank robbery, and how he always called his codes the Case Moon. He tells her he called it that because it made a loud noise and they'd laugh. His mother then advises him to reach out to his sister and the visit ends. We cut back to Hobbs sitting with his daughter eating, when suddenly a man arrives and tells his daughter he hasn't seen her in a long time. The girl goes to her father and asks who the man is. Hobbs tells her he's his friend Luke, who works for the CIA. Luke then introduces himself to the girl. At that moment, Hobbs tells Luke to hurry up and get to the point. Luke pulls out a paper and tells him about a virus called CT-17, a programmable weapon codenamed Snowflake. Hobbs' daughter Snow asks about the snowflake and Luke explains it's a weapon that melts body parts. Hobbs cuts him off, saying she's only 9 years old. Luke then hands the paper to Hobbs and tells him a British intelligence officer in London has a sample of the virus. Hobbs finds a photo of a man and Luke says he's the one who invented the virus, but his current whereabouts are unknown and he might be dead. Hobbs replies that he hasn't gained anything from this information. Luke responds by saying Hobbs will find him because he's the best tracker and tries to offer him someone to assist, but Hobbs refuses, saying he'll work alone. Later, we see Dix after leaving prison meeting a man who shows him a photo of the soldier who stole the virus and tells him the virus she has isn't with anyone else and he must find her. He also says they'll bring someone from America to help him, but Dix says he doesn't need anyone's help. Then Luke and the man with Dix talk and inform them that both have agreed to work together. When Dix and Hobbs meet, they clash and say they'll never work together, continuing to argue without anyone being able to intervene. Afterward, each starts working alone without the other, and the girl who stole the virus is highly skilled at escaping and hiding from them. But Hobbs finds her, and they confront each other, fighting intensely. The girl tries to escape, but he finally manages to catch her after a long fight. Later, we see Hobbs and the girl at his workplace, where he's interrogating her and asking about the virus's location, but she refuses to answer, telling him he's too weak to figure it out and keeps provoking him. After a heated argument between them, the phone rings and the spy says their time is up. Hobbs gets up and tells his assistant to watch her, and if she tries to escape, to shoot her. When she mocks his words, he tells his assistant to shoot her twice and leaves the room. As soon as Hobbs leaves the room, he talks to his daughter, who tells him he caught the spy. He says he caught her but hasn't gotten the virus yet, and continues talking to his daughter for a bit. Meanwhile, the spy is with Hobbs' assistant and tells him he seems new, then suddenly attacks him and keeps hitting him until Hobbs finishes his call, hangs up and sees them. He enters and points his gun at the spy. At that moment, Dix suddenly appears and raises his gun at Hobbs, telling him to let the spy go. But Hobbs says he hasn't found the virus yet and won't let her go until he does. Dix says she's his sister and he'll take her and leave. But as they continue arguing, the virus gang suddenly storms the place, attacking them and taking the spy, jumping out the window with her. Dix and Hobbs chase after them, fighting their way through until they manage to retrieve the girl, get in a car and escape, with the gang's leader chasing them on a motorcycle. He tries to catch them but crashes into a bus and gets stuck. Later, Hobbs, Dix and his sister go to examine the virus, but the spy tells them the virus is inside her body and they won't be able to extract it. At that moment, they come up with an idea to bring in the best programmer to find a solution since the virus is programmable. They manage to bring in the programmer. After briefing him on the virus, he tells them there are only two solutions. The first is to blow up the girl, kill her, and he'll work on the virus. The second is that T here is a device somewhere ransomware that can control the virus inside the girl's body, but the place is heavily guarded by British intelligence. Meanwhile, they realize there are no other options, and the programmer says the virus will spread into the air within a week if it remains inside the spy. At that moment, Dix intervenes and says he knows a Russian gang leader who can help them, and they'll go to her for solutions. Afterward, Dix takes them, changes their identities, gives each a new identity, and disguises them so they can pass through the airport, as the gang has posted their pictures everywhere, labeling them as dangerous individuals. But we discover Dix gave Hobbs the identity of a wanted man, so he gets arrested at the airport, while Dix takes his sister Hattie, the spy, and leaves the airport. Meanwhile, Hattie tells him what he did was wrong, and he says Hobbs is slow and will slow them down. But suddenly, Hobbs appears on the plane, with everyone asleep, and Hobbs and Dix continue arguing until someone hears them, and we learn he's a high-ranking authority figure, trying to calm them down and take control. Meanwhile, the programmer is with a man from the gang named Reichston. The programmer is chained up, and Reichston stands in front of him angrily, telling him not to waste time and to extract the virus from Hattie's body. The doctor looks scared, but tries to explain that it's not easy, and that if the virus gets out, the whole world will be destroyed. Meanwhile, Hobbs and Dix are moving toward the leader's location in Russia, and when they arrive, the leader warmly welcomes Dix, while Hobbs and Hattie are surprised. Afterward, they explain everything to the leader and ask for her help. She agrees and gives them parachutes, headsets, and infrared devices. Before they leave, she gives them a compact hydrogen bomb. Later, the gang is informed of Hattie's location and handed over to them so they can track their location through her. Hobbs and Dix are on the plane at the time, and Hobbs says after counting to 3, they'll jump. After the count, everyone jumps with parachutes, each focusing on the mission. When they land, they prepare their weapons, and Hobbs sets the bomb for 45 minutes. When they enter the lab, there are multiple doors, so Hobbs and Dix decide to split up, each entering through a different door. Meanwhile, Dix looks at a door full of guards and says it's crowded, so he'll enter through Hobbs' door, but Hobbs refuses, saying each should focus on their own path. Afterward, Dix enters and finds himself facing a large group of guards, forcing him to use all his combat skills, taking them down one by one. On the other side, Hobbs faces a huge man holding a sharp tool, but Hobbs attacks him with full force, knocks him down with one blow, and drags him to use his fingerprint to open the door. Finally, after a long fight, they reach the main hall. They think the path is clear, but they find Eaton's team waiting for them, with Reichston standing in the middle saying, "Finally, I expected you to come faster." Meanwhile, Hattie is tied up in the operating room, but she manages to free herself using a small chain, attacks the guards, and takes the device that will extract the virus from her body. Hobbs and Dix barely make it out, but Reichston doesn't let them go and uses electronic drones to chase them. Dix looks at the drones firing at them and says, "We're going to die." But Hobbs replies, trying to calm him down, "Don't worry, we have another plan." Meanwhile, the bomb explodes in the lab, but Reichston is determined to chase them and has no intention of letting them escape. Hobbs decides to take them to his old hometown, the only place they can find help. When they arrive, the first person they meet is his brother, who greets him with a punch to the face, knocking him to the ground. Hobbs' brother says, "Where have you been for 25 years? Hobbs gets up, trying to explain, and says, "What you heard about me isn't true. We're facing an organization that could wipe out humanity." At that moment, their mother intervenes and says, "This is my son, and no matter what he's done, we'll help him and won't leave him alone." Meanwhile, Reichston arrives in the village with a small army, but Hobbs and his family are ready to attack. Hattie tells them, "I've disabled their weapons system for 6 minutes. Use this time." The villagers attack Reichston's men with primitive weapons, and finally, after much effort, Hobbs and Dix work together as a team and manage to defeat Reichston after a fierce battle. But suddenly, the time runs out and Reichston's weapons reactivate, but the villagers intervene at the right moment, preventing Reichston from escaping in his plane and stopping him from using his weapons. Their leader falls into the water and dies. Meanwhile, Hattie seizes the opportunity and successfully extracts the virus from her body. Hobbs decides to return to live with his family, takes his daughter to live with them, and decides to end his life as a soldier facing danger. And so, the film ends. If you liked the video, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments.